everyone. I'm Marilyn, CEO and founder of Cosmic Centaurs and the host of our webinar about hybrid work and the Microsoft Metaverse today. Following the many people who were interested in last month's webinar about the Metaverse and the future of work, we decided we needed to do a round 2 and continue learning all about the opportunities the Metaverse has to offer us in the world of work. And as the Metaverse continues to be the topic of discussions and to gain popularity, organizations are trying to realize that how the Metaverse is going to contribute to their hybrid and flexible work models. There is, of course, so much to learn and so much to discover about how we can use it to facilitate these new ways of working. And Microsoft, of course, is very much aware of this opportunity. So many products in the Microsoft universe around this. Of course, Microsoft Mesh for Teams, which enables people to collaborate remotely in a metaverse space, which we'll talk about a little bit more today. But also, virtual immersive world with Microsoft's recent acquisition of Activision Blizzard for $70 billion last month. We all know about Minecraft as well and all the other pieces that will come into the puzzle in order to fully leverage the gaming aspect of the Metaverse. And our guest today, Vesa Nopanen, will help us learn all about the future of work in the Microsoft Metaverse. Vesa, or Vesku, is a principal consultant working on Metaverse and future of work on Microsoft Cloud. He is also a Microsoft MVP. He's extremely passionate about the Metaverse and how it's going to enable the change in how people work together today and in the future. You can read all about his thoughts and insights about the Metaverse on his blog, mymetaverseday.com, and someone from the team will also drop that link in the comments for you guys to see. And today, Vesku has prepared a presentation for us. So he's going to take us through about 30 minutes to give us his perspective on what the future of work looks like, after which we'll be more than happy to take questions for everybody. So don't be shy. Do drop your comments and your questions in the chat. I will be here to make sure that we answer all of them in the second half of today's webinar. And let's get started, Vesku. So thank you so much for joining us today. So happy to have you here.
Thank you, Marilyn. It's great to be here, and it's kind of a very exciting topic to talk about. And thank you for the wonderful intro. It was great great to have a kind of a being presented in such a nice way. So it's a really exciting topic and exciting times. So stick around, and of course, do post those questions. We will have some conversation about them at the end.
Absolutely. All right, Vesa, over to you. I'm going to add your presentation to the screen here and then take us on a journey.
Thank you, Marilyn. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the future of work. I will focus on more about the Microsoft Metaverse here, but this is not totally about Microsoft because the Metaverse is a big thing. So in this presentation, as Marilyn presented me, I will share some vision and insights how Metaverse will change, how we work in the future, and how Metaverse, of course, will meet those challenges we are going to meet on the way. My name is Vesa Nopanen. And as Marilyn has stated, please do call me Vesku. That's my nickname, and I would like to go with that. I'm a principal consultant focusing on Metaverse and future work side. I also do modern work. I was used to work and still work with teams a lot. So that's why I have a kind of a big insight on how Microsoft is doing this. And feel free to connect me here at LinkedIn and, of course, at Twitter. And as said, there's my blog about my Metaverse thoughts, and there's also lots of Teams-related content. Yes, the Metaverse will change the way we work. You could say that in the same way the internet and cloud has changed our lives. The first, I will go in a general side of the Metaverse before going to the future of work side, before diving into Microsoft Metaverse and more about the technology. And of course, Mesh for Teams is included in this one. So Metaverse enhances our ability to create, learn, and collaborate in this hybrid workplace. You could say that the Metaverse is a big part of this digital fabric that is connecting people to applications, physical and virtual spaces, digital twins, and content, with the help of AI and other services. So in other words, the metaverse enables us to bring the real physical presence to any digital space and vice versa, bringing computing and ambient intelligence to the physical world. And yes, it's a big game changer. That's going to change how we work. That's going to change a lot of things in our personal lives as well. How we navigate the internet, or we might be calling that the metaverse in the future. And I have to say that I agree with Satya Nadella's quote that we are seeing more digitalization over in the next 10 years than we have seen in the past 40 years. And to be frank, most of our digitalization has happened during these past 40 years. So we are talking about a really big change, and it's going to accelerate the change of pace of change is going to accelerate and go forward. And it is causing, of course, a lot of challenges. It's going to cause challenges to the people, and it's going to cause challenges to the organizations. But on the other hand, it's going to open up a huge number of possibilities and opportunities for everyone in there. And of course, when we think about this hybrid world, it's going to be there. And Satya and I are not alone in this vision. For example, Bill Gates was writing in his blog at the end of last year that predicting that within the next 2 to 3 years, he predicts that most virtual meetings will move from 2D camera image grids or 2D meetings, or possibly even, most likely even events, to the metaverse with 3D space and digital avatars. And I added the events part there that wasn't in the Bill Gates quote, but I think the events and even something like this may have a very good chance of being a very different kind of meeting or a kind of a experience in the near future. And as Marilyn remembered to kind of say, the Microsoft acquisition of Activision, that's a big thing, and it just tells that how much Microsoft is investing in the metaverse, $70 billion. The deal is not completed because it can take a year or something like that, but it will also open up huge number of possibilities how they can develop and run the metaverse. Because Activision has a huge user base, they have lots of experience, and we have seen what kind of visuals you have in games these days. I can't wait like that part to landing on the enterprise world, so we can have very, very immersive experiences in there with all that knowledge. But that's technology. Of course, the tools are important, but we also need to think about the practices and ideas, because we will have a lot of challenges for the future of work. The challenges will be, some of them are the same we have today, and some of them are just expanding, and some of them are new ones. For example, the world we live today, it's hybrid world. It has to be, because the hybrid is the default. It's here to stay. The world changed. There's no going back. Lots of organizations are thinking about the traveling. Is it necessary or not? And perhaps there's going to be some rapid changes. Something is changing, so we can't travel for a few months. We don't know what the future will bring in there. So we need to be agile, and we need to be able to respond very quickly to changes. And of course, it doesn't mean about this about traveling or are we going to the office or not. We can think about the changes in the business side. There's going to be emerging new models. There's going to be changes like business opportunities. Being able to be a responsive organization and meet those changes and kind of take advantage of that. It's going to be very important when you think about the company's success. Another challenge is going to be that people will be working more asynchronously than we do today. We have meetings, lots of meetings, sometimes back to back, and we don't really want to be online synchronously in all of those. We just need the key things. What do we have to do, or do we just check some of those things? So in the future, we will be working more asynchronously. We will meet also synchronously, but we will be choosing those. And when we work together with the person, like this is real time, I'm now online with Marilyn, this is not recorded or anything like that. It could be, if there would be a kind of pressure of time. But the thing is that we are going to be seeing more kind of asynchronous part, especially we are global. We are working in global sense. There's going to be lots of challenges when we think about, okay, how do we learn new things? The ongoing learning experience. We need to be kind of evolving, continuously learning new things. How do we lead these teams that are spread around the world in some cases? Perhaps your team is not even in the same time zone. And I'm kind of 2 hours behind UAE area right now. So Marilyn was finishing her lunch before we started. And just kind of, from my perspective, it was a late lunch for her. So because she's living in my future 2 hours ahead, but we are still online. So talk about this asynchronous or a different word than we lived before. So how we lead in these things, how do we collaborate, organize things? How do we onboard new employees or colleagues that we may never see face-to-face, or perhaps we see them face-to-face the first time in 6 months? I have colleagues I have never met physically because they were recruited during this pandemic time. So you need to think about all these parts and how we work together and still be very productive and kind of efficient and on this, because that's what we want to do. We don't want to kind of miss opportunities there because we don't know how we should be working together in this current world, and talk about the metaverse world. And of course, we need new employees. And our current teenagers, they may have very different kind of ways of working or working practices at school. How do they group or form up? They may be more like kind of ad hoc networks there. It may be something very different than the traditional company culture is these days. They will expect that tools and practices are up to date in their standards as well. So thinking about how flexible, how agile the work needs to be. And thinking about current employees as well. Yeah, they want that too. You need to be able to attract new employees and keep the current ones in this situation. And it's just about the tools or practices. It's also about, do they kind of root to you? Are they part of your community as well? And I wanted to bring in the diversity and inclusion part here, because that's a really important part. We have amazing, so to say, superpowers in our network. We have those fantastic people that may not get their voice out in the current situation. Perhaps there's language barriers. Perhaps there's kind of just in people who are introvert and they don't kind of want to speak up, especially with cameras on. But whatever the reason is, that perhaps they just feel different. And so whatever the reason is, they need to be included. You need to be able to include everyone, because that's when you have the best possible assets to take your organization to the future. So you don't kind of miss those leads from, for example, from the ground level or at the floor level, where people know what are the issues, and you need to be able to kind of get the feedback and involve their opinions, because they might have something that you haven't really thought. And that's the inclusion. That is why the inclusion is really, really important. And going to the metaverse, I see the metaverse is enabling us to meet these challenges the future work has. And this is kind of again, a chicken part. Of course, metaverse will bring some of those challenges in a way, but it's also meeting those challenges, and it's kind of opening up new possibilities. For example, in the past years, we've had less spontaneous interactions with our colleagues because we are not at the office. Well, personally, I haven't been at the office even before pandemic much. But the thing is that with the metaverse, we might just drop in and engage in that spontaneous interaction. And the teenagers these days, they are not really calendar-centric like we are, the old organizational bureaucratic people. Like, well, we have been at this trade over, I have been here over 25 years. So everything runs through calendar. Teenagers don't do that. They drop in, hey, who's available to help me with my homework? And kind of use different tools there and drop into the metaverse and start working with them who are there, asking opinions there. And all that also brings the sense of togetherness, because that's something we have been missing. And it goes to the commitment, or if you think about the employee retention. If we are in this together, the people are less likely to kind of switch to the other company. And we are, as people, we like visuals. We like videos. We like a lot of that part. Like when something is presented in a visual way, it's going to be very much easier for lots of people to understand. And that's also part of the inclusion part. For some people, reading and doing in 2D way is better, but for some people, the 3D visualizing everything, it's going to be a lot better one. So there's going to be a lot of aspects you have to think. Okay, how we train and learn together. Yes, we can learn through videos, so alone, solo, or we can learn and train in groups together. That's a big thing. You get that social network and can ask spontaneous questions. Much more easier than dropping a Teams message or WhatsApp message to someone. Yes, you can do that. It's kind of half spontaneous, but you may not want to do that because you don't know if that person is available to answer you. And if they answer you in 30 minutes, it's too late. Onboarding new people. And just think about onboarding people to the office. You may have a digital twin of the office. So when they walk in the metaverse through your office, and when they first set the foot on your real office, physical office, they are already familiar with that. They can already meet people. They can meet people in the metaverse through avatars who resemble enough the real people. So when they meet them in real world, they are going to recognize them. Or perhaps you want to onboard them to for customer situation to experience the new mall, new retail shop there before it's even complete. So you can do lots of things like training and learning and onboarding through the metaverse in a more visual way. And that brings us to company spaces, rooms, offices. That's where we can drop in to have the spontaneous interaction. That's where we can have events. That's where we can do training. That's where we can hang out, have fun. So bring out the sense of togetherness there. And I don't have a Sulava logo, for example, on my wall here. So this is my home office. You are not seeing that, but yeah, it's my home office. So the thing is that you can be very detached when you are working just remotely. But the sense of togetherness is something we have missed a lot. And it takes effort to have the sense of togetherness in this hybrid world and today. So you want to bring that to the metaverse. It can be branding, but it's also about the feeling of that. And that's the experience the metaverse can bring a lot better in. And avatars. Yeah, of course, they help with the diversity and inclusion. You don't have to have a camera on. We all have bad camera days or something like that. But that's not the whole thing. It's about, it can work as a shield between the person and the others. We can help some of the people to open up their voice because they don't see the real them. They want to express a certain kind of avatar about them and bring out the personality there. And automatic translations will also help if you have cultural and language barriers. So all this can be, of course, a kind of new attraction. We need those new employees. We want to keep our current employees. We want the new customers in. We want to make us interesting for customers. And we want to kind of keep our existing customers that they know, okay, we know this thing. We know the hybrid world. We know the future in that sense. We almost have a crystal ball, but it's just some visions we do. And for organizations, the last part is also important. Just think about the cost savings. You will travel less. Think about onboarding, repetition. You don't have to create those physical scenarios or locations. You can repeat the exercise multiple times. But that was mostly practices. That was some piece of tech. But from cost savings, you will go to the new business processes and models, because that's what organizations will need. This is a lot more than just ways of working or tech. And if you just think about the digital twins, it could be the retail store, it could be an engine, it could be a factory. It will alone open a lot of new possibilities you can already do today. But just think about facing the customers, how you meet and encounter them in the future. You have a presence in the internet today. You have web pages, you have chatbots, you have forms where people can book up vacations, travels, flights, whatever they want, order stuff from this grocery store to be delivered home. And if you start thinking about that, if the company doesn't have a presence in the internet, does it really exist? It does, but your new employees and your customers don't know anything about that. It's just coming from face to face or from between people, and that's kind of the physical network that's spreading the way. You don't attract new employees, you don't attract new customers, they don't get the ideas there. So that's happening already in the internet. That needs to happen in the metaverse. Just think about the new business services, like, for example, you have a metaverse presence and you have an AI avatar there that can answer the questions, take orders 24/7. It can be a bit futuristic at the moment, but there's a lot of that stuff we already do with chatbots. It's not perfect. It's not going to be a simulated person. AI needs to be a bit better than it's currently, but it can help. You can talk your things out, especially if you are not that good at typing, or you don't want to type, and it can service you or serve you in different languages even, or perhaps it's just holograms telling about your services. It's more visual and more immersive in there. So that's the kind of thing. Just think about if you are renting or selling apartments, people can walk around and the hologram can tell them things about the apartment, or even take the booking. You go to and see the holiday resort site. Hey, I like this room here. I want to book this room to my next visit. This exact room with the exact view. So it will bring in a lot of more visual immersive experiences, how people are there, and also the business models. And yeah, I promised something about the Microsoft time, and I will be running through almost out of time, not yet. A few things. I really like the offering or stack what Microsoft has for the metaverse. Yes, the Microsoft Teams and Microsoft Mesh will be the common user interface. They will enable people to experience this very easily. But did you know that you can already create everything else on this slide except that Microsoft Teams and Microsoft Mesh part? You can create digital twins with Azure services. And you can create those applications to HoloLenses to have that mixed reality, augmented reality experience, or mixed reality experience with VR. And using all those services, basically Azure, Unity, and everything in there provides. You could bring your presence to so to say, to the metaverse. It's on the company side, but yeah, you can start creating those. And digital twins can help you to run businesses. Microsoft has lots of kind of use case examples there. Like I think there's one brewery they use, for example, controlling the process automation from there. And Power Platform is there because that's the really critical thing. We are already being able to use the citizen developer part. Basically, business people can start creating their own customizations, their integrations and automated processes, especially combined with people with more dev experience. So in a sense, or what's happening? Metaverse has a lot of opportunities for business, and this is not a closing slide yet. Don't go away. It allows us to meet and work together in this future hybrid world, and Teams is going to make it really easy to experience for everyone, because Mesh for Teams is not going to require you to have a headset. Most of the people will not likely to have a 3D headset anyway. So you can join the immersive experience through Teams in desktop, web, mobile. That's a big thing, or perhaps something else. And I think that acquisition of Activision hopefully brings us the Xbox in there as well, to be able to join the metaverse. The Teams has 270 million potential monthly active users, or monthly active users that are potential metaverse users, people entering the metaverse. Xbox have, I don't know, 100 million users. Activision has 400 million monthly active users. That's closing to 1 billion users who will join the metaverse through Microsoft at some point of time. And what you can do that. Okay, this is more perhaps about the hybrid work. Just think about, you have an expert. So, and this remote expertise, that's already there. You can start using that. This remote expertise, it exists. Your one expert can help lots of different sites during one day. Mesh for Teams will be enabling us to train and learn together. So it's going to be collaborative learning. We will be able to create these immersive meetings and workshops. So we may have this hybrid environment where we have people in the real physical meeting room. Then we have, for example, the Surface Hub with the Microsoft Whiteboard in the room. And then we have the virtual meeting room where people from around the world are joining. They have a whiteboard in that virtual room. They see the cameras of people who are in the physical room. They see the shared content. They go into the virtual room and draw to the whiteboard. And that same whiteboard experience is shown through that physical Surface Hub, for example, in the physical room. And people can pick up that pen and go and draw ink to that whiteboard. So that's already, actually, you can do that without the virtual space at the moment, but you can do that. So you have people online and people in the physical room, and you have whiteboard as a metaverse tool. So that's why I'm already saying metaverse is here. You can have these project rooms in situation information, like situation rooms where you have the project data or crisis, whatever company data, so you can lead the organization, bring in the information. And if you have 3D models, you may be designing together, going and checking them out. Some of these will work better in the headset with the headset. Some of these will work just fine through Teams. So how does it will look? And when it comes out? Sooner than you think. The Mesh for Teams is going to preview this summer. So we are just talking about some months away. And we will be able to switch to the immersive experience directly from Teams. It will have those avatars, it will have those whiteboards, and hopefully even automatic translations. Some things may not be in preview on the first stage, but they will be there. And there was already one Jeff Teeper's tweet earlier this month about that they are building the metaverse in the metaverse. They are already using working code to build it. So I'm starting to be pretty confident about this schedule. There will be immersive spaces in Teams channels. So you have a team working space and various pre-built spaces you can use. So these persistent workspaces will bring the people together to be able to interact and collaborate in a very natural ways and exchange that information. So I think it's almost to the end. I almost did it. But the future work, it's in the metaverse. I'm not saying that everybody will be in the immersive meeting all the time. There's always the practices, what tool and what is going to be the best one. But in overall, everything in that is the metaverse. We are already part of that. And those persistent metaverse spaces, that's going to be the really changing thing. So we are coming from from the momentary meetings to the kind of ongoing meeting space. The physical meeting room doesn't go away either. So the metaverse meeting room shouldn't go away either, because you can drop in again and continue where you worked in there. Thinking about those avatars and everything there. But the business side, that's really, really important, because that's going to be the money and very important for the success of businesses. And for the next one, now I didn't press the next one yet, so Marilyn was a bit worried, I think. This is an short 1-minute video about one event I am one of the organizers in. It's called Teams Nation Community Conference for this year. And it's focusing on Teams, and it has 140 sessions. But what is relevant to this webinar is that we have 6 sessions that are about the metaverse, mixed reality, and virtual worlds. So this is going to showcase those sessions for you. But before I put it on, start playing it, if you have questions, feel free to use the QR comments now. Put them in so we can have that discussion and think about what kind of questions or the discussion topics you want to involve now. Okay. And in that event, we have 13 different rooms. 10 are in English, and then there's 1 room in German, 1 in Spanish, and 1 in French. So, and of course, we also have some sessions about the hybrid work and everything around that. So please do register in, share the word. It's free, completely free. That's organized by community. And so basically you have content for everyone in there.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really grateful that people like you take time to organize this. It's really incredible. 140 sessions, all for free. My team is going to drop the link for people to register in the comments as well, so that you guys don't miss out on this event in exactly a month, right? On March 23rd.
Yes.
So lots to do, I'm sure, between now and then. And I'm really grateful you took time to come and give us this presentation. We have a lot of questions to go through, so I'm going to try and group them a little bit by topic, right? So I think one of the first questions is about like how the metaverse is going to function in or alter the course of things in different industries. The first question we have from Raif about this is, what are your views on how this might affect tourism and travel?
Sorry, what travel?
Tourism. How do you think metaverse?
I think I kind of dropped in my example that people will be able to familiarize, kind of get to know that, for example, the resort or hotel before they are even going. So they will kind of make those changes or should be able to choose, okay, this is the hotel, or this is even perhaps the room where I would like to be in. And what kind of services are there, and seeing those facilities. That's going to be definitely something. Metaverse is not going to replace going to the actual physical place, at least not totally, because the thing is that we may not always be able to travel. So there might be virtual resorts where you can just enjoy the mood or relax, perhaps guided meditation, something like taking a stroll around the city. You may want to experience a lot of cities throughout the world, even you know that you don't have time or money to travel there. And are there some services they would provide and monetize that part? Hopefully, yes, because otherwise it would be pointless to create all that. It would be otherwise just public service. But I think the thing is going to be on the kind of the hyping up and feeling what the place is going to be, what you want to experience, instead of looking those 2D photos of the hotel and making the decision based on those. And instead of that, you might want to take a kind of a more different kind of view. Okay, what I want to do there. The virtual travel has been around, especially since COVID started, and because people couldn't visit those places, and I think that's going to grow as well, but it has a different kind of function. It's going to be perhaps the virtual metaverse travel happens. You may want to hang out there, go with your friends or meet new people. Well, it's kind of a community in the web these days anyway. But for the tourism or the traveling part, I think that might be the one I explained. But I still have to say that the virtual tourism might be a growing part, because you could be selling all those souvenirs, probably virtual NFTs, non-fungible tokens and stuff from there. Hey, I visited this place virtually, and just thinking about when those worlds evolve and they will look better, it might be a really cool experience. I've been to some places I couldn't really go and experience it, albeit virtually. It's not going to be the same, but it can be something that's we are going to be seeing a lot more.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree. First of all, when I think about like the science fiction representations of like the metaverse in its full blown, CGI, of course, a lot of technology and broadband has to happen before that's possible. But, you think of the Ready Player Ones. I mean, there are so many scenes in that film that like I would love to visit for sure. And I wouldn't mind spending time there. I also think there are more contemporary examples that are not exactly tourism, but still I think that are like virtual worlds that have created really compelling experiences. Fortnite has been doing like a really interesting work in organizing concerts and events and making them into incredibly immersive player experiences. So it's not just that you're sitting, putting a headset and watching, you're actually taking part in the experience. And I do definitely see us seeing more virtual worlds emerge. And as you say, we also see now some small examples like rooms to meditate or art galleries or specific spaces that we can now start to go and explore, even though they are a little bit still choppy. I want to say like the rendering capabilities are not great, and it still looks like some of them also even look like Zelda, from like the 90s. But still, I see this beginning to happen, and there will be a lot of curiosity around that for sure.
And it doesn't have to meet with the physical or real world. We might be taking a tourist trip to the moon, or Mars, or ride a comet, or something like that, having different experiences. And I really like the museum example, like visiting some of those places. You might have to pay to visit some of these experiences, and that's going to be virtual tourism that's opening things up in the metaverse.
Yeah, completely. Another question around like the impact on industry, Binosh asks, would it be right to say that the metaverse from a business perspective will be a platform for sales and marketing and leasing and CRM, and how will other areas of business be included?
Well, I think that's a kind of very broad question, but I think the sales, marketing, that part is about what kind of presence company has in more kind of public metaverse, and that's the commercial side, more or less. That how we are going to what kind of metaverse spaces there's going to be. Probably we don't see one huge metaverse like in sci-fi or in Ready Player One, where you can walk around and go to physically to or move around between places. But instead, we will have this kind of I don't know, malls or whatever. But on the business side, I think the real key thing is on the enterprise side, like how do you work better in this hybrid work with your colleagues, meetings, and a truly hybrid meeting experience where you have virtual rooms, physical rooms, online people attending the same meeting, and everybody can participate. Everybody are included, and then there's going to be this digital twins side. And just think about if you are running a business, and usually people or they are managing a business, there's perhaps a process automation. The brewery is a good example. You have lots of variables there. You have lots of data. So you can go in and see the digital twin. You can look at the history. You can make kind of a simulate things like make future predictions. Okay, if I change this, how this model is going to act there, because it's a digital twin. It should have a kind of everything represented in the digital twin. So you could make those prediction analysis and see, okay, can I improve something there? And I think that's going to be a very big thing. Factories, whatever out there that business is running, perhaps it's on more smaller scale. We might want to take that at home automation, temperatures and lights, our fridges, how much electricity is being used, so we can kind of to put that perhaps into even the more personal scope. But even at office, the finances might be interesting about how what's the prediction on our office costs or whatever it's out there. So I think that's really the thing. We are talking a lot about the consumer experience very easily because that's the sci-fi futuristic part. I'm really fan of future and sci-fi. I just have to admit, I've been growing up with Star Trek and Star Wars and cyberpunk. So it's this is something that really resonates with me. But the enterprise side, that's something we need to focus a lot and think about, okay, how do the enterprises benefit from this and what they can do better, because that's really the important part.
Yeah, I really love that point. And when you and I had a conversation, you opened my eye to an example that I just went back and I spoke to my husband. I was like, I hadn't thought about this. So the example you had given me was, suppose you're going to open a hotel or a mall or a store sometime soon. Normally, you would have to wait for it to be accessible and safe, and then you can invite your staff in, and then you have to train them, where the emergency exit is, how big is the kitchen, what does it do, like all of these things that you would normally do as part of your training. And the idea of having a digital twin, for example, and being able to anticipate all of this can just have such a huge effect on your ability to generate revenue from your assets and to spend less time preparing the physical asset and doing as much as possible in the virtual world. I thought that was an incredible example. Our speaker from last session talked about co-creation in the metaverse. And I think the point you're making and that I just want to bring out, which is important, is, of course, like for us, there's always this like fantasy sci-fi world that we're all going to be in. But where we are today is more about finding small localized applications. You mentioned expertise. I have a friend from INSEAD who's developing these glasses where somebody in a factory might need an expert to come in and help fix the machine, but they're in, I don't know, Orlando, and the machine is in Singapore. And you could just have someone tune in and again, using a combination of like augmented reality, the metaverse, whatever, they could just support you with their expertise. Like, I think we're already seeing a lot of these localized small scale applications that can, potentially become really, really valuable for companies. So while we will all continue to dream about the big metaverse, I really side with you on this idea that thinking in like specific applications might have the most value add. Now, about how this influences the future of work and collaboration, Karima, early in the conversation, when you were talking about asynchronous work, asked, like, how does asynchronous work in the metaverse? And then David is answering her in the comment, and I just want you to jump in this conversation. He's saying they use digital spaces to save minutes, images, and notes from meetings. And then they're able to visit what he calls a spatial record of a meeting as a great way to do asynchronous work. So they can return to the space of that meeting, which is, I hadn't seen anybody do that. That's a really interesting one. But how do you see asynchronous work being enabled by the metaverse?
Yeah, I think there was a lot of that key there. I use the term persistent spaces. So you have the meeting spaces persistent even in Teams currently. So you can add a whiteboard to a Teams meeting, and you can go there and ink to the whiteboard, and people who join the meeting later asynchronously they can drop into the meeting and check the whiteboard and put in their information. Or you can use Microsoft Loop that is already in Teams chat to kind of have a very flexible digital canvas to put in your notes. And that's really the thing about the asynchronous part. You will be able to continue, so to say, the meeting from where it left, put in your notes, add mention people, and put in your ideas. The meeting, for example, in the hybrid world, you should record your meetings. For example, the Teams meetings, there's coming this kind of a chapterized thing, and you can search also the transcript of the meeting. So when you record it, the transcript is going to be recorded. So the search is actually already working. So you can search what was being said in the meeting. And in the near future, I don't know, Microsoft term about near is sometimes fluctuating between months and a year. So, but anyway, you will be able to click on the meeting transcript in a specific place, and it will take you to the meeting recording, into the specific place when it was said. So when you're, okay, I'm going to check out for my name in there. When I was mentioned, what I'm supposed to do, and so you can catch up only to get the essential parts of the meeting that are addressing you, something around that, and then you add tasks, for example, there, and you have those shared notes, shared ideas, shared documents, everything connected to the meeting, and now you put that to the metaverse, and I'm hoping we will be seeing easy way to record holo messages or something like that there. It would be just recording the avatar for a specific message, but think about the board is there, the whiteboard, the notes, sticky notes, whatever it's in there. Okay, how we continue. Perhaps I imagine we will have those applications, perhaps not in the preview, but anyway, brought in. So we might have more details and information. That's how I see those situation rooms. You have, it could be in a kind of meeting room, but you have all the relevant documents, relevant graphics, relevant data, reports there for you to analyze and use. And hopefully those applications that can change things as well. So it's not just reading, it's about being interactive. And people drop in there. But we are doing a lot of work already asynchronously. We are sending messages back and forth, but it's going to be more in the process, tied into the work process. So we are not switching between applications to do something, but we have everything there. I think there's a bit complex answer for a very simple question in that sense. But the thing is that we are catching up where we ended, and the persistency that has been with Teams chats already for 5 years. So that's where we are seeing that as a continuation.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. As a continuation of this topic, there's a couple of questions here. One from Tala, and then I'll read the second one in a second. So Tala says, will this become like a new requirements for hires in the future, that they are familiar with the metaverse? Is there a hiring advantage for early adopters? And then another question here from Amit, will there be new skills required to work in the metaverse?
Oh, that's an interesting topic. For example, we at Sulava, we are already hiring people with knowledge about Metaverse. So if you think about the people who are willing to learn and adapt to the situation and react, okay, what's needed? But as long as you are doing the continuous learning, you will kind of pick up the pace. And is it requirement? Well, possibly at some point of time, but it depends on your role. If you think about the Microsoft approach, we would be using Teams. Generally, Teams is rarely a requirement. Do you know how to use Teams? Not necessary, because it's, after all, very simple to learn, despite Marilyn Zakhour experiences. But so it's I think it's really easy to kind of train the people and to kind of learn how to use it. The shared practices is something that goes along with that, and you do the onboarding. For example, using the Microsoft Viva directly through Teams and possibly inside the Metaverse as well. So you bring the ongoing learning experience. I think it's more about the personal, I don't know, attitude is not the right word, but kind of your perception of how you see the situation, and is this something you want to learn? And because when you want to learn something, you have a motivation, and it's easier to learn things and accept the change as well. So being a requirement to some roles, if you are going to be I don't know, architecting the metaverse, yeah, I think that might be required. But if you are a customer service worker, that might be an advantage.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
yeah,
I
so
love
something
that
like
answer.
that.
I couldn't agree more with you. When I first read the question, my answer in my head was curiosity is the skill that you need, right?
Yeah,
And that's
exactly.
how I love what you said. It's really just about learning one more thing. The same way we had to learn how to use the internet a few years ago. I don't think it's much different, but it's being open to new experiences and not being scared of them, and actually just trusting yourself that you will figure it out. There's a lot of questions here about accessibility from Andrew, from Carolina. And what I mean by accessibility, on the one hand, Andrew asked us, when do you think that something like the HoloLens is going to become quote unquote affordable? It's currently at 12 times the price of Quest 2. Not that Quest 2 is, it's a bit different, but just by way of comparison. Carolina also asked, is there a cost to access the Microsoft Metaverse? What is the cost for a 10-person team, for example? Just talk about the accessibility from just the point of view of access to the right technology and then cost associated with it.
I think the mesh for teams is really important there because it doesn't require to have the headset. And yes, HoloLens is a very premium hardware. It's a very special hardware. It's awesome hardware, but it's very expensive. If you have business cases that need that, then I don't think the price is really the issue. But if you think about joining a metaverse meeting, then the price is an issue. And yes, it's a lot more expensive. I think when Microsoft was announcing the mesh for Teams side and in some of the following presentations, I think they are targeting a lot more of these headsets than just the HoloLens. It's not going to be the requirement to be able to join these. And for example, I wouldn't buy one for myself personally because, yeah, it's expensive. I would be going through Teams meeting, switching to the immersive view in 2D monitor. That's the same way I do Altspace these days. That's the same way I play games. And well, actually, I have a PlayStation VR headset, and I did enjoy it a lot. But it was still a bit too early adapter for on the graphics side. But the thing is that okay, you are not going to need that headset on the business side to join these Microsoft Metaverse meetings. I think you are needing a headset, 3D headset to join the Meta Horizon, for example, but there's different kind of aspects there. And as for the licensing part, Microsoft hasn't shared any details, so anything I say would be just a guess. But I would think they want to make it easy for people And that's my best guess that it's going to be available for lots of those people, 270 million people who are using Teams, but I don't know the details. So any details, because they haven't shared any.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think, look, on this topic of like the mesh and Microsoft Teams, when you and I first discussed this, I shared this with you, and I think it's an interesting discussion to have, because I also really, your answer just gave me a new perspective. I was very ironic about it, because for me, it's like, well, why do I mean, I'm sitting here in front of my camera anyways. If you're just going to put like fake skin on me, I don't see the point. And you know, the perspective that you shared was really interesting, and I'd love it if you could kind of tell the story a little bit more here. And you kind of touched on it in your presentation, and you said, well, what about people who don't feel comfortable in front of a camera? What about people who are ashamed of their background? What about people who look different and so will always be treated differently because of how they look and so on? And I thought that was a really, for me, a new perspective, because being an extrovert myself, I have no issues being in front of a camera all day long, which makes it, of course, I'm like every human being, I'm self-centered, and I think everybody is just like me. But I really appreciated your very different perspective on this, and I just want you to comment a little bit more on how you feel like Mesh is allowing for that more diversity potentially and more inclusion.
Yeah, it's a broad topic again, but I think I start with the avatars. So currently, if you are in a Teams meeting or 2D meeting, any tool basically where you have your camera off, you either have your initials or some other square or circle on perhaps you have a still image of yourself there, and it's not telling much. But even when you have a camera off and you would have your avatar there, it might be a bit more alive, programmed to be a bit more alive when you do some reactions there, or perhaps it's listening, hopefully in the future, your tone, what you're speaking. Are you excited? Something like that. It might reflect your mood there. And even not even talking about the 3D experience there, but just the avatar. So it's kind of a shield, I think. So if you are a bit afraid, okay, how do I look? I don't have a really good day. I'm lying on sofa, whatever, really. And then you just have the avatar to represent. It can be on business suit. So you can have a really kind of sharp business side look of yourself in there in that meeting. Perhaps you are in real life, you are on a wheelchair. You couldn't move around that way. So it can mask those things that are irrelevant to the meeting, and bring in the concentration on your message, what you are going to be saying there. And I think that's one of the inclusion part that's really important. And I would hope that there would be a way to kind of the type to speech option as well. So even when I have bad English days and better English days, so in some cases it might be just better to type in and let the avatars speak for me, because I have to be silent. I have been in many meetings where I've been typing to the chat because it's been late night, evening, or some other situation. And some people, when the meeting is not properly facilitated, they don't even recognize those chat messages. So you would be able to be heard out with that kind of tech. And I hope that kind of parts would come in the future there, because that's something that's needed. But I think that's helping. A lot of people, you may have some things like you may not want to use your cultural background in there. You know, it may be offensive to someone, or just take it to the wrong turn. Some people are not accepting that diversity that much, or however it is, and the avatar can help there. But of course, I prefer I like having this face-to-face as much as it can be face-to-face between us now, but basically video calls or meetings, that's good too, because I like seeing the expressions. But avatars will bring that, make it that available in a very close way. It's not going to be the same, but closer.
Yeah, I get
Hopefully
that.
that answered that.
I learned a lot from that answer, honestly. It helped me to have a different perspective. Speaking of avatars, there was a fun conversation in the chat. Tala said her avatar would totally be a flying tiger with wings. And then Rhea later, let me try and find her here in the comments. She said that hers would be, I think, like an animoji, and that it would change its hair every day. We all have a lot of an animagus, sorry, Magus, I don't want to say this wrong, like Tonks in Harry Potter, who changes her hair on the daily. And I said mine would totally have purple skin. And Vesa, maybe this is, like not what you'd expect me to ask, but what would your avatar look like if you could do whatever you wanted with it?
More thin. I would lose a lot of weight. Actually, also my first avatar was with the purple skin. So because I was Mr. Teams at the moment, so that's kind of the thing. The avatar can also express you, and I might change to business attire. I would change to more leisure attire. I would probably have several different avatars if hopefully I can change between the mood and where I want to represent. And I would be a mage.
Love it.
Of course.
Pretty cool. I love that. Thank you for that answer. Actually, with that, it comes to about an hour since we started. So sadly, even though there are a couple more questions in the comments, but maybe you and I can go and answer them asynchronously later. I am so incredibly
perfect example.
Yeah, exactly. Here we go. But I just really wanted to take a minute to thank you for your insights and for every conversation. I've had a couple of conversations with you so far, including this one, and it's always just really interesting to get your perspective on things because you just open up my mind, and I'm sure that the audience has felt the same way.
I hope so, and thank you, Marilyn, for inviting me to this. This was really fun, and I love the topic, of course, to share my visions and views on the metaverse.
I'm really grateful you took the time to join us. I'm also really grateful to all of our attendees who joined us and were incredibly, active in the comments and had a lot of great questions and a lot of banter between them, which is always beautiful to see. We'll be reposting, of course, this video is available on our social pages, on our YouTube, on our website soon. And if you wanted to get more content from us, you can follow us on LinkedIn, or you can find us on our website, cosmiccentaurs.com, and subscribe to our newsletter. That will make us really, really happy, and you don't have to miss out on our next webinar. And so, as we said earlier, Vesa is organizing a community event on March 23rd, the Team Nations Community Conference. So many speakers, multilingual. I mean, one gigantic feat. I mean, I'm so impressed with the work that you guys are doing. We've left the link in the comments for you to register, teamsnation.rocks, if you wanted to go on the website. Do join us. It's going to be in about a month, and I've registered for sure, so I'm very excited about it. And with that, Vesa, I'll be signing us out, and I hope to see all of our audience members soon, maybe in an upcoming Metaverse webinar. These have been so popular. Every time we say, okay, we'll do one more, and then we think maybe one more is also still necessary. So thanks again so much for your time, and see you soon.
Thank you, Marilyn.